If you step onto any growing construction site in the UAE, the pressure is immediate. Foremen are shouting over radios, chasing down updates, and tracking moving targets on clipboards. This chart shows the financial reality of that pressure. A baseline budget is set, and then it is frequently dwarfed by cost overruns that average 20 to 30% across the sector. Margins in construction are incredibly unforgiving. For mid-market firms trying to scale, those overruns happen because planning is completely disconnected from execution. You end up with 4 conflicting versions of the truth: the site engineer's spreadsheet, procurement's email thread, a paper timesheet, and a financial ledger that only gets updated after the damage is done. While you try to figure out which data is accurate, actual material usage on site fails to reconcile against the bill of quantities and your original budget. Purchase requests get stuck in the wrong manager's inbox. Site teams are left waiting, and you bleed margin by the hour paying for idle time. You don't lose control of a project in one dramatic event. Control erodes gradually, day by day, through shadow systems like Excel and WhatsApp. In the UAE, these operational delays quickly turn into legal risks. Because the construction sector relies heavily on expatriate labor, the Wage Protection System, or WPS, is strictly enforced. Attendance and labor allocation have to match payroll exactly. You also have to manage a 5% VAT across highly complex staged progress billing, advance payments, and project retention. This timeline shows an even tighter squeeze approaching the market. The window to 2027 is shrinking, bringing mandatory e-invoicing right to your door alongside existing VAT audit markers and strict WPS penalties. This mandate requires structured transaction data from end to end. Tacking on a simple invoicing tool later will fail because the core system lacks the necessary master data and tax logic. Deploying a UAE-compliant ERP establishes the core logic for how your company will operate moving forward. Fragmented data represents a severe, quantifiable compliance liability that finance carries the ultimate responsibility for. When it comes to solving this, there's often a divide. The C-suite wants one prestige of a heavily marketed global software package, while functional leaders desperately need gritty, local utility that works on the ground. Deploying a top-tier global system without deep local construction customization leads to immediate friction. The board gets exactly what they asked for: beautiful executive dashboards and perfectly formatted standard accounting reports. This comparison matrix shows the divide. The generic global ERP gives high visual appeal, but fails at local site realities. Forcing local regulations into a rigid system leads to expensive friction. The localized ERP prioritizes high WPS integration and Arabic workflow compatibility. Those generic systems routinely stumble when trying to process complex UAE retention billing or project-based procurement loops. Focusing the evaluation on dashboards results in software optimized for meetings rather than field operations. A vendor has to show you exactly how a site purchase request flows directly into a supplier invoice. If they can't do that, they cannot provide true operational control. When you start prioritizing modules, you have to look at the numbers. Labor is the single largest moving expense for most contractors. When you force HR, payroll, and site operations into a single discipline, raw attendance data funnels straight into project costing and central payroll simultaneously. The output is real-time project P&L visibility and automated WPS compliance immediately. To get that result, you have to enforce strict daily discipline from your site managers regarding attendance. You can no longer rely on the finance team to try and fix the numbers at month-end. If you isolate payroll from your project operations, your reported project P&L is largely fictional. A payroll module that isn't strictly tied to your workforce operations is an accounting convenience that offers no real compliance control. Achieving that control means facing the reality of implementation. This is where years of bad historical data resurface to disrupt your new system. You have to halt the deployment process and ruthlessly clean your historical data. Standardizing bill of quantities items, stripping out duplicate suppliers, and aligning every cost code perfectly. By doing this work up front, you establish a highly accurate single source of truth the moment the system goes live. As you can see on this Gantt chart, a severe data cleanse stretches out the timeline and physically pushes the go-live milestone back. It demands a massive time investment from your functional leaders, not just your IT department. You'll also need to make a choice on architecture. Cloud deployments give you rapid multi-site mobility, while on-premise installations give you granular control over highly specialized workflows. Whichever you choose, avoid the trap of over-customizing early on. Recreating your old, inefficient habits inside a modern system defeats the purpose. Implementation is a rigorous program of business change that requires active governance of your processes and people. Construction is a broad category. Disparate business models require drastically different software. This decision tree illustrates the split. If you look at the civil branch, infrastructure firms must prioritize heavy plant management, strict material inventory, and deep subcontractor control. The MEP and fit-out branch points in a different direction. These firms need agile BOQ revisions, fast procurement integration, and rigorous variation tracking. Both paths ultimately funnel down into the same unified compliance and e-invoicing core. If you are a developer-linked contractor, your priority shifts again toward tighter integration between project contracts and your master finance data. Evaluate your software based strictly on how your specific business runs, not how a vendor categorizes their modules. The right system will have a digital footprint that mirrors your physical site operations exactly. Once the system is up and running, the focus shifts immediately to measuring the actual on-the-ground business outcomes. Measuring success simply by asking if the software turned on is a critical board-level mistake. Instead, apply this 6-month ROI test checklist. Half a year after go-live, evaluate the investment based on operational speed and accuracy. Can the board see project risk sooner? Are procurement cycle times actually moving faster? On the compliance side, is payroll running natively with far fewer manual exceptions? Confirming these results proves the investment protects your margins and meets strict UAE compliance standards.